Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to another book haul. I know, I did a spring book haul last month in April, and May is still spring, so you would expect that the next book haul would be a summer book haul in June or July. But if you're following me on Twitter or Instagram, you already know this. I had a really crappy day at work the other day. And so I went out after lunch just to clear my head and, walk around. And I discovered this really nice little bookshop in which they have English books, which is, I live in Holland and Germany. And even in Holland, it's not that common that regular bookstores have a large section of English books. But this bookstore had. So, of course, I bought some books. And I thought I'd share them with you. And the first book I bought is this beauty, The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Maria Crawhurst, published in 2018. I came across this book roughly a year ago, I think, on Mel's channel, Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures. And I think it was, she read this book then and she raved about it. And I think it was nominated for the Walter Scott Prize, longlisted. And if I remember correctly, she was really disappointed that it wasn't shortlisted and, of course, didn't win. So I had this book on my radar for some time. It's historical fiction set in the late 17th century, starting 1664 in England. So just after the start of the Restoration under Charles II. Ursula is born in December 1664. She is a headstrong child, and her parents, but her father especially, encourage her to learn. She is taught mathematics, but she is especially drawn to the theater. But then, of course, like it happens in the 17th century, she is married off to a man 20 years her senior, and the book then follows her into adulthood, still trying to find her way as a writer, as a playwright in particular. I think that sounds fascinating. I don't know that much about this period in time in England, the Restoration under Charles II. So that's interesting for me as well. And I'm buddy reading this with Doris from All the Books. I saw her mention the book, and then I suggested a buddy read. So we will start next week buddy reading this, and I'm really looking forward to it. The second book I bought, I want to show you, is also a buddy read, and that is Diana Evans' Ordinary People, published like Ursula Flight in 2018. And I will be buddy reading this also next week with Sean over at Sean, the Book Maniac. I was interested in reading this book mainly, I have to admit, because it is shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and it's the only book on the shortlist that I haven't read yet. And me, being a completist, I wanted to read it, even though I know that it's gotten quite some mixed reviews. I know that Robert from Bader Hortz really hated the book, and so did Dee from Brown Girl Reading. So I'm getting into it with the expectations are not that high, which sometimes is a good thing. Excuse me, I'm coughing at you in this video. I'm so sorry. But anyway, the book, first of all, it's not Linda, but Diana Evans. She is a Black British writer. She has published novels before. I haven't read her yet. I think her most lauded book before this is 26A. But yeah, like I said, I have missed this author completely. So that's another reason, to pick it up. Oh, and by the way, I will leave a link to the website of the Women's Prize for Fiction down below, so you can check out the shortlist, and the winner will be announced the beginning of June. The book is set in London, and it starts, at least that's what I understood, in 2008, so just after Obama got elected for the first time as president of the US. And then we follow two couples, from what I gather, quite well-to-do couples, and it's focusing on the lives of those couples with the backdrop of this historical shift after Obama won the election. Like I said, I'm going into it with no high expectations, and Sean is already making jokes that we will probably bail, so we'll see. But I'll keep you posted, and I'll tell you more about it once we've finished it. The next book, the third one, is a book that I have been meaning to read for quite a long time, and that is Han Kang's Human Acts, published in 2017. Han Kang, of course, a Korean author. This book is translated, like Han Kang's other books, by Deborah Smith. And it's set around real-life historical events, the student uprising in Korea in 1980. I have a difficult relationship, let's put it like that, with Han Kang's book. I read The Vegetarian, didn't really gel with me. I'm also a bit dubious about the way the books are translated. Deborah Smith, I mean, that's not gossip. It's you can, if you Google her and what she says about the translation, it's she seems to take quite some freedom with the original text, let's put it like that, putting it into English. I don't know how good Han Kang's English is, or how much she can judge it. I mean, The Vegetarian won the Man Booker International Prize, so yeah. But I don't know about that. But anyway, I'm waffling. I still wanted to read this, especially also because I'm interested in learning more about Korea and the events in 1980. And it is Asian Readathon, so the month of May is dedicated to Asian Pacific Islander heritage. That means you are encouraged. There's a readathon, more than one, and for me it's an encouragement to spur myself to read more Asian Pacific Islander authors. So this book fit right in, and thankfully Jacqueline over at 6 Minutes for Me wanted to read this book as well, and we will buddy read this at the end of the month, so it will take a while until I get back to you with this one. The next two books I bought, I've already read, but as an ebook, and I love them so much that I wanted to have physical copies, and I really like the paperback edition, and that's those two. Let me see whether I can hold them. Yeah, like this. So Deborah Levy's Things I Don't Want to Talk, Things I Don't Want to Know, and The Cost of Living, a non-fiction work about her life and writing. The first one published in 2013 and the next one in 2018. There's a third one coming, at least that's what I understood. It's supposed to be a trilogy. They're quite short books. I will just hold this up like this. You will find, the title of the books and everything down in the show notes with the link to Goodreads. I read The Cost of Living last year, and it just blew me away. I thought it was so insightful, so well written about Deborah Levy's struggle with writing, and just being divorced and being a single mother. And the first one, Things I Don't Want to Know, is about her childhood and writing and reading. I just love them. And I think, like I said, these editions are really wonderful. So when I saw them in that little bookstore that I discovered, I had to buy them, and I definitely want to reread them. And then the final two books are also books that I've read, but not in English, and wanted to reread in the original English for a long time. The first of the two is Catherine Mansfield, The Garden Party, published in 1922. Catherine Mansfield, a New Zealand author, born in 1888, and she died very young at 34 of tuberculosis. And this is, The Garden Party is one of her last short stories she wrote. She wrote mainly short stories. She published 3 collections during her lifetime. And I think this particular short story, or you could call it a novella, is one of her most famous work about a garden party going wrong, you could say. And if you're following me on this channel, you know that I've read quite some English language classics when I was young, but I read them all in the German translation, like Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters. And I'm one of the quote-unquote projects of this year, and probably also next year and the year after, and maybe for a lot of years to come, is to reread them in the original language, in English. So you've seen me, talk about Jane Austen's books. I'm reading them in chronological order. I started to read the books by the Bronte sisters in English. And when I came across this, by the way, really beautiful edition, I think, by the English, the what's it called? Penguin English Library. I really love those editions. I bought the Jane Austen books in the same Penguin English Library edition as well. Anyway, waffling again. But when I saw this one, I thought, perfect. I'm going to buy it and reread it in English. If you have never read Catherine Mansfield and you like reading short stories, you have to read her. Sorry about the abrupt break. I had a coughing fit. And I didn't want to cough a third time into your face. But anyway, the final book is also from the same edition, the Penguin English Library edition, and a classic that I read a long time ago and really loved, and that's Kate Chopin, The Awakening, first published in 1899. Kate Chopin was an American writer, novelist, and short story writer. She lived in the South, in St. Louis and New Orleans, and I think it's a real pity that she's all but forgotten. She's never mentioned in the canon, even though this book, The Awakening, made an enormous impact when it was first published in 1899, because the heroine of the story, Edna, is a woman in quite a stifling, non-satisfying marriage, trapped there, and then finding a love and also sexual fulfillment outside of the marriage. And that was something that, the Victorian English sort of atmosphere that also informed a lot of the writing of American writers. The public just didn't, they thought it was scandalous. So it's you could say it's an relatively early work of feminist writing. I love Kate Chopin's writing style, and this story in particular. I remember when I read it, I was in my late teens. I thought it was wonderful. So I hope I will not be disappointed, but I don't expect I will when I reread this finally in the English version. So those were the books that I bought because I had a bad day at work. I mean, turns out well, I think, having a bad day at work, because I'm really happy about the books and the buddy reads and the rereads. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments whether you read any of the books that I mentioned. And I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye-bye.